it's time to have that uncomfortable discussion. The uncomfortable discussion that isn't just relevant for today because of Black Lives Matter, but it's an uncomfortable discussion because of people who have a want and will to embrace our culture, but not want to have a discussion when it comes to how we're treated because of the color of our skin.
And when you say our culture, you're referring specifically to people, to Black British, Black American, African diaspora.
Yeah, because the music industry, to be quite frank, they make millions off of Black culture.
Yeah.
And, this is a time about education. Terence Floyd made it very clear. It's not just about protesting. It's not just about that. It's about having the uncomfortable discussion and raising awareness, because some people, they just don't understand the responsibility that they have within their organizations and, their board members to educate people. So it's not a knee-jerk reaction where some major companies are only getting involved in Blackout Tuesday just because they don't want to be left out or a fear factor. Some of them, if they don't understand, that's where the learning needs to happen.
Is it specifically about the music business?
No, it's not. But Black people, our music is linked to our trauma and our pain. Anyone who has a massive interest in the music industry will know that when we make music, our history, it comes from pain. The rhythm and blues, the jazz, it all comes from pain. Hip hop, it all comes from trauma and pain. So it's linked, and you can't separate the culture from the oppression, from how we're treated at the hands of the police.
And has this begun in America? What's the sort of story, sort of how it's kind of shifted, or was it both places simultaneously, do you think? Or
It's America. America is a country where Black people are treated so bad, especially by the hands of the law. The stats in terms of police brutality over there is something that is uncomparable. It's unacceptable.
yeah,
It's something that, if you're not aware, you need to get to know. With regards to, how we rally around and support our brothers and sisters from the UK and America, it goes without saying, because we are inspired by the culture. We are inspired by the people who give us art and poetry and films and music. So you cannot separate race when it suits. And then when the dust settles, some individuals will be happy to tune into Netflix and see programs of how we are depicted in race. It's not about that. It's about the uncomfortable discussion. And that discussion is about raising awareness, holding people accountable, and putting our voices in arenas where change needs to be made. Like I said before, the music industry is a multi-million-pound industry, but the oppression of Black people within society, it shouldn't be that way. So for Blackout Tuesday, for me, as someone who is an independent artist and I own my own record label and publishing,
yeah.
it's very important that you stand next to your brothers and sisters during these times. You cannot focus on just feeding the big machinery, and then the big machinery is not giving back to the community.
And so what does it actually mean in terms of what's happening or not happening today?
Today, for me,
yeah,
I've disengaged.
Right.
It's about engaging with your community. Everyone who...
So it's not using social media, it's not putting music out, all of those kind of things.
It's more to do with picking up that phone and having a conversation, having opportunities to have conversations with individuals like yourself.
Yeah.
Checking in with people. I mean, how many Black people who work in an organization has even had a phone call or a text asking them if they're okay? I mean, those images, they were devastating. But how many people have actually just said, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? Though that's the conversation. And I feel that if we just continue to just carry on like normal, and when it isn't normal, people would just think, okay, they're okay. There's nothing to discuss. Where it's got to be viewed. Racism has to be viewed from a different lens.
And
it cannot be viewed from the lens that it can only be fixed by just Black people raising that awareness. It takes people who want to listen. It takes all cultures who and races who will want to get involved and actually be part of the progression and listen. But it's not going to come by that conscious bias, the conscious bias of the law that holds black people to account of a wrong and then views Caucasian males who oppress and are physically abusive towards black people in a different way when they want to sanction them. It's about raising that awareness so people understand that that is not unconscious, that is a conscious bias.
Is it also important, Max, that yes, today is very important in terms of raising consciousness, raising awareness, but it isn't about one day. It isn't one day and then move on. It can't be, can it? It's got to go deeper and further and be continuous and be perpetual.
It has to be, and it starts with moments like this. And like I said, when the dust settles for the organizations and the big companies who feel the need to get involved because it's Blackout Tuesday, it's the day after and the day after that, how they change, who is behind the presenter, who is behind the producer, and who is the person holding the camera. Are they a person of color? Who's the person in the executive board making a decision? Are they a person of color? Are they communicating with those within their organizations to find out what they can do for effective change? Because that is actually equality. And that's something that doesn't happen. So you're right, it's not just about today, but today is a start of raising that awareness. But I won't be happy if today and it's like, okay, tomorrow we just move on.
Yeah. It's got to be a start of a conversation, but it's got to go beyond being a conversation, hasn't it? It's got to, in the end, it's got to change the way that people live their lives and change the way that people think about their fellow human beings.
Definitely. One of the greatest things about the creative industry is it has the power of influence. And that power and influence is a movement that is so great it can contribute to the change of policies, procedures, and law. So no one in the music industry should be sitting down thinking, I don't know what to do to get involved. There isn't anything I can do. If you are making Grammy records, or you're just an engineer, or you're someone who just is passionate, that is enough. Our history has shown that passion is enough as a starting point to bridge that gap. But now we're talking about a wider discussion. We're talking about people becoming numb to seeing violent things that are happening towards people of color and not understanding that this is something that you don't just swipe past and it's not addressed. It has to be addressed. Terence Floyd, he made it very clear. He made it very, very clear and said, we need to do more. We need to start voting. We need to do a whole load more. And that's something that needs to happen right now.
Max Cyrus, talk to us again.
1 second. Did you not hear me? Could you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you absolutely. No, what I mean is come in and talk to us again. Let's not make this just a once-off conversation is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. For you, as someone who is willing to listen, we can have this conversation off air. We can have it on air. I can ride my bike down to the BBC and grab a coffee at social distance and have this conversation with you, because that is part of the change. Today is about people who are willing to engage and make that difference. And if that's not going to happen, it will only get worse.
Max
Because
Cyrus,
people understand it's not just about, I'm not making music today, I'm not going to post today. If you look and you see what's happening around you, that's the point of stillness where people need to take a moment and start reflecting.